there folks, good morning. Welcome to this Wednesday edition of Fireside Chats at Lake Superior Art Glass. Today we're going to be making rubber duck pendants. This is something that I came up with a few years ago when the world's largest rubber ducky came to Duluth for the Tall Ships Festival. And wanted to find a way to kind of commemorate that and just have a cool souvenir that we could offer. So we do make tall ship pendants, by the way, as well, but the rubber ducks are pretty cute. So we'll be showing you how I make those today. All right, so turn this off for a sec while I lean in. Here is our rubber ducky pendant. Cute little guy. So that's what we'll be making today. This yellow is Banana by Glass Alchemy. And when I talk about cadmium colors, any opaque, bright colored glass, like reds, oranges, yellows, those all have cadmium in it. And that's one of the metals that's just used to create those colors. But cadmium has a much lower boiling temperature than a lot of the other metals used to create colored glass. So these colors end up being really sensitive, and they're harder to work. So in the past, when I started blowing glass in 2003, I wouldn't touch cadmium colors because I would boil them and they would bubble and just look textured and look like crap. And I was just like, oh, nope, not touching those things. And so they've really come a long way since I started, but they're still sensitive. So a couple pointers on working cadmiums. You want to make a very oxidizing flame to the point where you're cooling the flame. So right now I've got a really nice neutral flame, and I'm gonna add some oxygen to actually start cooling it. You guys can see the difference in my flame there from a neutral to an oxidizing. You can hear it too. So you don't want it crazy hissing and like really, really loud, but you want a good like shh of oxygen flowing through. The other thing that's gonna help is working further out in the flame. You'll have to work a little slower, but those are the two biggest tricks to working cadmium colors is a cooler flame with plenty of oxygen and working further out in the flame. So that's the deal there. As always, I've got a cut end, so I'm going to remove that. Alright, so I kind of flattened the bottom out there. Now I'll stick a punty on there. Alright, so kind of squished it into more of a disc, almost like a hockey puck or a curling rock. Got those rounded edges more like a curling rock. They're just pretty blobby and random looking right now. But once you add the eyes and the lips, it all comes together. Or the beak, I should say. Ducks probably don't really have lips. I was thinking duck lips. For being so simple, these do take a little while again, just because that color is so sensitive. Just got to work a little slower and cooler. Give things time. Okay, that's melted down now. Starting to look like a rubber duck. Let's put that beak on there. There we go. This is probably a color called OJ from Glass Alchemy. Can't say that with 100% certainty, but it does appear that way. And that's one of their other reformulated cadmium colors. Just gonna add a little line on the face here for the beak. so it's a little more flat, beak-like. See his little beak right there. So everything looks pretty different as far as colors go when the glass is hot. I always describe those cadmium colors as glowing one shade darker. So yellow glows more orange, orange glows more red, and then red glows more brown. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but it's looking pretty, almost brownish, you know, deep red, orangish brown right now. So that is why. All right, I'm gonna add the eyes right now. Just 2 little dots of black glass. And we're going to melt in those eyes a little bit. We don't want them sticking out too far like googly eyes. We also don't want them melted flush either, otherwise they don't look quite real. I can't remember who taught me this trick with eyes, but oh, maybe it was the Shane Farrow video that I had on his birds. That to get eyes to look a little more realistic and less cartoony on a glass sculpture, you need to heat up the glass around the eye as well, so that when you push the eye, you actually push it into the surrounding glass and it indents it a little bit, and that makes it look a lot more realistic. So on this small of a scale, it's definitely a little hard to do, but it still does work. My knife is cooling the black glass for the eye as it touches it, but the yellow glass for the head behind it is not being touched, so therefore it stays a little hotter and I can indent that eyeball a little bit. So I don't know if you guys will be able to tell the difference between the 2 eyes. So the eyes on the left side is indented and the eye on the right side is not yet. Looking pretty good. I'm just going to redefine the beak a little bit. It's gotten a little hot in the process. So there's our beak and eyes. Then we're going to put a loop on the back. We'll use that yellow again. Putting a loop right in his little behind here. And again, trying to get the loop proportionate as far as size and thickness goes. So you don't want a giant, jumbo, chunky loop on this dainty little pendant. So I stretch the glass out pretty thin, and we'll melt it down even more to shrink that loop up. That's what it looks like right now. Almost like a little teacup handle. This is another little pro tip that I always try to stress to all my glassblowers and apprentices, is when you've got the heat in the rod that you made a loop from, or that you swiped off something with that is that same color or clear glass that's still usable, melt it in. Take the extra 5 or 10 seconds right now while the heat is in there to melt that in, because then this rod is ready to go for the next time you need it. Whereas if you leave a bunch of crap on the end, you're not going to take the time to melt that glass in when you need it next, and you're going to have to heat it up, rip off the stuff you don't want, and then use it. So you're going to use up that time anyway, and if it's usable material, then you're wasting it. So when the heat is in there and you finish using that rod, don't just set it down on the bench and keep going. take the 5 seconds or 10 seconds, whatever it takes to melt that back in. Now, worst case scenario, if if there's some bubbles and it's kind of crappy, you can still scrap it. But at least you tried and didn't really take any extra time to try. As a glassblower, it's super important that you're always analyzing your processes. Glass is a very reactive medium, and if something's not going right and not turning out the way you want it to, you need to keep doing that process and pinpoint the time and the step where things are not, that's causing it to not go right. And so you can really improve your production rate and quality by doing that, is by analyzing your process. These are all things that I've made hundreds or thousands of and refined that process to the point where I can make them, almost perfectly the first time in a really pretty efficient amount of time. If you go into every project just winging it, you're going to end up with subpar results, and good chance it's going to take you longer as well. So, all right. So there's our little loop. So there is our finished rubber duck. Looks pretty reddish brown right now, but I assure you that'll go back to yellow and the beak will be orange. So now it goes into the kiln so it can stabilize in temperature and then cool slowly overnight. So thanks everyone for watching.